Hey, welcome to Logo Day. What I want to do is show you how to program the logo and then be able to download this program to it and have it work correctly. Last week we went ahead and did a video of showing you how to wire the logo in terms of the positive and negative and where we wanted the inputs to go. We chose input number 4, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. We have the 4 devices that are connected to the logo machine. We have the controller, which is connected to input number 1. Input number 2 is our green light. Input number 3 is our horn, and number 4 is the red light. Now, the other thing that I want to add to this is actually to use our text box to be able to give you the wired colors, but we'll do that in the next screen as we actually set this up with all the control items that you see. So let's go ahead and get busy. I have a dialog box that I've already opened up. In order to get that, you want to do File, New, Functional Doc Diagram, and there we have a brand new screen that we can start setting up our control system. First thing you want to do though is to make sure that you're actually connected to the logo with the Ethernet cord. So I've done that. I plugged it in the back of my PC, but I just want to make sure then that the machine is actually going to find it. So right now it's offline. When I click to online, it's going to go out and search the cord and then find whatever devices that are out there, and lo and behold, it picked up the logo and it actually gives us the IP address where it's at. So that's going to be very important for us here in the next step. Going back to the diagram mode, we want to now make sure that it is fully connected and we can communicate to it. So this green arrow then allows us to do a check to make sure that it's out there. So we know it's connected, but we want to make sure that it actually can get a download from us to be able to load its program. So under the address book, since I've already done this a couple of times already today, I have it named after one of my students. You're going to want to put the IP address, the subnet, and the gateway in. So you need to go over to the logo and find the network connection that it has right off of the screen by pushing the green buttons over there, and then move it down so that you can find these numbers. So my research says that I went over there and I found the IP address is 192. Then it jumps over here to the 168. The machine says 3 zeros, but you only need to record 1 0. And then you have to force it to go to the next one and then to put down the 1. On the subnet, you type this in. Now sometimes this pops up all by itself. 255, 255, 255, and then there's the 0. And then you go over and put in the gateway. Interesting thing about this machine is that this pops up as all zeros, but I know better. I've worked with these things before, so it really wants a number very similar to our IP address. So you're going to look at 192.168.0 and then jump the dot and then put a 0 here. And that's what it's looking for. So now let's go ahead and let's hit the detect button. And the first thing it's going to go ahead and do is look for it. So let's run our test, and boom, just that quick, it went ahead and did it. So I've already, like I said before, gone through the steps that it went and found it for me earlier today. So this is a good one. Maybe the next time I do a video, I'll show when I'm just connecting the first time so you can watch the whole process, because it makes a couple of decisions about it. It tells you that it's not on the same internet system, so you already know that. So just pick yes. It'll ask you to add more JavaScript, so you pick yes to that, and then eventually it'll come up and say, hey, it was successful, so we're ready to go. So we already know this is connected, so let's just say okay, and there you go. So the logo right now is already running. Let's just switch it. It's in the on mode, so that thing is going to annoy me a little bit. So let me go ahead and turn it off, and then we'll get started. All right, I'm not starting the video over just for that. So we've done things earlier today, so it's all loaded up, ready for program. So let's go ahead and try it again and put down what we need for this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to put the e-stop button in there, and we need the inputs. On this particular controller, there are 7 inputs. If we add more relay packs to it, we can get up to 24 inputs onto the logo machine. By placing it on the screen, it's just a drop or drag. So this is our e-stop button, and I don't want to put it in the number 1 input because my fat fingers, number 1 is right down to where we have the power coming in, and these connectors are really tiny, so I actually moved it down to number 4, which is a little bit further down the way, and you saw that in the video. I actually explained why I did that, because it's just harder to reach and my fat fingers pull wires out. So we want to label this something so that when we turn this over to someone, they can actually see what we got. So we're going to call this e-stop emergency button. We're not going to put the word button in here. Let's just call it e-stop, and then let's give it its designation, and it is normally closed. So without pushing the button, there's current flow going through it, and that's what we talk about, or that's what we mean. So remember now that, oh, I bet you I hit cancel. Let's try it one more time. E-stop. Remember that there's no spell check on this guy, so make sure that we get everything spelt correctly. Let's get another line in here. Normally closed. And let's hit the right button this time, and let's hit OK. There it is. Just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and change the font. I kind of been liking this Comic Sans, and let's make it bold, and let's put it at 18 so that it really stands out and shows us that that's our e-stop button. All right, so now we have to have outputs. We got to have a signal going out to something. So let's go ahead and put the Q's out there. So Q represents an output, and for the first one, I'm actually going to put it down here because it helps us as far as what we need to do, and we're going to call this the controller. Let's change the font. And let's not make it bold, let's just do the 18. And actually one more thing I want to do, that is a brown wire, so let's use a text box to put that in, and I can actually do that. All I have to do then is hit the big A, touch the something on the screen, and we're not going to change the font on this one, and then just click off, and there it has it, brown wire. Now this does not move when we move this around. These items, it doesn't move with it, so we just have to move it independently. So there you have it. So our next output is the green light, which we've labeled number 2 on our panel, so we don't necessarily have to have these in order, but now you saw us wire that into number 2, and this was the green light. And text box. These are green wires. Okay, let's change this then. Stop it. Let's change this then to our sans 18. Not bold, green wire. Number 3 is our horn. So let's put this down here. Now this is going to aid into how we connect things. If we want we could actually stack these up a little closer, and then these a little closer. And number 3 then is the horn. And it has yellow wire. No reason to pick yellow wire, it's just that I wanted to make sure that we have separate color wires. And as we looked at it on the other video, it's easy to see. And then our last output would be our red light at number 4. Let's label it. And then text box, and that actually is red wire. Okay, so we have them all labeled. These are our major components that we're going to have in our system. Now we can put up to 24 of these, but notice if I pick on this one, notice that number 4 and number 1 and 2 are missing from this list, so that you don't double up on an output, so it automatically knows which one you don't have on the screen, so you can't get 2 number 1s out there or 2 number 3s, so it helps us out in our programming. All right, so what do we want to do the first go around here? Well, let's wire things that we want to happen in a normal fashion. Now the easiest way then to get these things wired up internally is to go to up here at the corner and then touch on our connection, and this is the way that we would connect it. So we actually want the controller and this green light to be on, because these are the most important items that we want to be running. And whenever this e-stop button is not pushed, we want the green light and the controller to be on. And so we're all fat and happy and everything is moving along the way we want it to. But we've got some options that we can actually do. It's kind of nice to have not only the controller functioning, so I have our light, but we could then have something that we could actually read on the logo, and maybe they're in different spots, so we could actually read on the logo that things are all going nicely, and the color on the logo is either a green or a light color. So let's add some of those components to that. So we actually, it might be better to add it to the control line where we want things to occur rather than just the green light one, because the controller is the most important piece that we have to operate. So let's have this line interrupted with some of the features that we want the logo to have. So I'm going to erase this line here for the minute, and now we'll start putting some pieces in to make our logo a little bit more readable. First thing we want to do is to make sure that our screen is a light color. Light colors are happy colors. By doing so, we can put a flag in here. And to have the screen color in a light background, we're going to want to pick number 25. Now the TD is a viewing screen that could be on the outside of the panel, or it could be in the manager's office, that will also get the same inputs as we have up on the logo itself. So we'd actually have to put a 25 and a 26 in line, but since we're only working with the logo, we can do that. Now I can pick on this and it automatically pops the 25, or I can actually pull it down from the list and pop it up. I don't know what all these other ones are for, unless they may be for other controllers, but these are the lists that operate for the logo itself. So you notice that it changes, and then it gives us our white color. The other thing that we might want to have is that if I'm looking at the logo, I would like to have the text read on the face of the machine something. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So when I select this, it will tell me that I can either have this go on the window face the TD or just on the logo display. So we want just the logo display, and we want to say safe to operate. Now this green spot is the only thing that we're going to see on the logo. So we kind of want to center this up. So let's call it safe to operate. So it looks like I could start at 1 over, so I could center it up a little bit. That's really not that big of a deal, but there it gives it, I guess it's not going to come out right either way, so let's just leave it at that. So now, the other thing is that when we add a comment, remember that just because we put it on to the logo doesn't mean that it pops up. So you want that comment over that box. And I usually like to write exactly what is going to pop up in that window screen. So there you can see it. So let's move things around so we can see everything. We got plenty of room here, so let's do that. So now this is all we need for the controller. So let's wire this up and then connect it here. And there you have it. So there is our first part of it. So now when we click on the simulator, these are all the outputs that are out there. Here is our white window, so that when I throw the switch, we now have, you can see on the logo, it says safe to operate. The green Q is operating, so the screen on the logo is white. Here is the controller. It's lit up. Our Q is lit up. So we are all good to go. So we're on our way. All right, so let's look at the second half of this now. So the second half is our red light, so that when there's an emergency and that button is pushed, that we are going to have things happen. We want the horn to go off. And we want, let's turn this off, we want the horn to go off, and we want the red light to go on. But we're going to add a little chink to the red light, is that we want it to pulse. Now the horn pulses, has a red light to it, but it pulses automatically. That just came. We were so happy to have Amazon donate that to us, so we were grateful for that. But we're going to use our red light now to not only be on, but we want it to pulse, because that pulsing is easier to see, and people notice flashing lights, just like the conveyor carts that go around, the forklifts in the factories as they look around. On our field trips, we've seen that, and it's much more obvious that there's danger connected. So again, if we're going to connect it, all we have to do is grab the inputs, and I don't like the way that one went. I don't want it to overlap. Let's just be neat about it. Let's grab this point. I don't like that at all. Delete. How's that? Still doing it. All right, well, we'll worry about that later. Okay. Let's do this. Then let's delete him. Ha! Got it. There we go. So now let's connect our horn. I'm going to give up. Jeez. Can't win. And I'm not remaking this video. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead. Now that's the way we want it. That's where it's going to connect. So we're operating off the input of the e-stop button. So we're going to leave the horn alone, and it has its own programming parameters that it just automatically is going to give us a beeping red horn and light. So now let's go ahead and do the red light. So we're going to put those pieces in here. So let's go ahead and add something similar to what we did before. So we want a flag. So we want that to go red. And let's see what red is. Red is, here we go, logo red background. Looks like 29. If we put the 30 on there, if we put both of them, we'll get it off of the TDE. No, we just want 29. Okay, so you'll notice that goes red. We want text. We want the text to change. And what else we want? We want one more item on here, and that's our frequency generator, our pulse generator, so that we can get a flashing light. And there's our pulse generator. So let's wire these up. I always tell anybody when you're wiring it, always go to the top one to make sure that you get it connected. Sometimes these other pieces for other items and not necessarily for what we need to do. And I just make sure that you wire all the tops. The outputs of each one of these devices, there's only one. So now we have it connected, so let's go ahead and program some stuff. Let's do the text. Remember that we only want the logo. And we want it to say, what do we want it to say? Oh, emergency stop. Remember now there's no spell check on these things, so make sure you're spelling it correctly. Emergency stop. And then I would say add it up here at the top. Because it just doesn't give you that information. So let's try to add some things here so that we can actually get, let's move this down. There we go. So we can see things. Let's go ahead and switch up the font on that. Make it a little easier to read. Safe to operate. Emergency stop. We have that. And there we go. Now on the pulse generator, the two things that we have, we want to make sure that we have, we can put down in minutes or in tenths of a second. So to get it to flash, let's go ahead with 6 and 6. So what it means, it's going to be 6/10 of a second on. It's going to be 6/10 of a second off. So what you could do is you could change these. You could make this 8 and 4 so that it might be on longer than it's off. But we'll just keep it at the same. And then there's really no need to put any information above that. It actually adds that to the bottom here and then tells you what to look for. So this is how we've connected it. All the same line coming down to the horn, to the controller. Looks a little different than what I had on the screen, but I wanted to add more space down here so you could see how it was actually connected, but these are all connected to the same input. Just double check then to make sure that when you have the simulator on, that it functions correctly. So there's our e-stop, and we're still missing one item, and I forgot. All right, so we got to switch these two around. So we have to add one more piece on here, and that is a reversing network called a NOT. So we have to add a NOT to each one of these items so that we can switch the control signal from when these are on, these are off. When these are off, these are on. So we got to add that to this line. So we'll put him in here, connect, and we got to erase this, connect these up. And I really would like to have this connect to this one, but it's just not going to do it today. So this has switched it around. So there we have our knots in there. So now let's try it. It's really kind of a big deal to check out what we got going. So right now in this position we have the e-stop button with the emergency stop. The horn would be going when I switch. Then we're safe to operate. The light screen on there, and then the controller is functioning. So we got it all set up the way we want. Now, close that out. So we want to be able to download this now to our logo. These two arrows that we have here at the top, one is to take the information from the PC down to the logo. The upload button actually then goes from the logo to the PC, and it's kind of nice because then if it's got previous programs on there, if I wanted to change this a little bit, I could actually upload it from the controller to the screen, make my changes, and send it back to the logo. So let's just see what happens. So now what we're going to do is we already have that. If you want to, you can run a test. There we know that we have it. It knows that this is the only machine connected on the line. So let's pick OK. Does a quick download to it. It says that you have to actually stop it to get it going. And there's something happening over there. So let's just get the program set up. So you can hear the horn and the light. So it looks like it was pushed down from my last class. So we actually showed you in the other video how that works, but this is actually how we would actually take the program from step one from the PC and connect it down to the logo. So that's it, and we'll see you next time.